Hi there, and welcome to the pod. I'm your host, Frank Ryle, and today we're going to talk about the Odyssey and how you can use the Odyssey as a case study to illustrate the stakeholder analysis, this aspect of project management that we want to talk about. It's one part of the science area, which is one part of the craft and the art area combined, giving us this project organizing device. So we have this stakeholder analysis. If you understand the story of the Odyssey, after the Iliad, Homer gave us this amazing story of Odysseus going home to see his wife Penelope, their son Telemachus, and the trials and tribulations that he had. So in that story, there are some characters, just like on every project, we have some characters, if you want. We call them stakeholders. And one of those that's important in this story is called Zeus. Zeus is the god of gods, the father of all the gods. And so he would be powerful, but not so concerned in this case. He's extremely powerful. He is the god of gods, and therefore he's very powerful, but not so concerned about this project, not so interested in this project of Odysseus. His brother is called Poseidon. Now, Poseidon, Neptune in the Roman gods, but Poseidon is the god of the seas, and as such, he's very powerful. He's also a bit more concerned because he has a bit of a bone to pick with Odysseus about the Trojan horse thing in the Iliad, and so this carries on for quite a while. Now, Poseidon has a son called Polyphemus. Now, Polyphemus is what we know of as the Cyclops, the guy that Odysseus pokes in the eye very famously and gets away by escaping under some sheep. It's an amazing story. But here is Polyphemus. Now, he is not so concerned, but definitely powerful in the sense that his father is a god. And if you know people like that in your organization, be careful of them because they have power by association with somebody else. Now, continuing the story, we have Odysseus himself, obviously. So Odysseus, powerful in this sense, he has power, but not a god in the sense. So we'll put him over here. He's also quite concerned about this project if we were analyzing it through the eyes of a project manager. Now we meet two demigods. These are daughters of gods. Circe, who he famously spent a year with on the island of Aeaea. She was a witch. She turned his men into pigs. Famously, he got out of it using a drug called Molly. You may remember the story. She's wonderful. She eventually perhaps had a child by him, unknowns to Odysseus. The child was called Telegonus, and ultimately ends up being the hand at which Odysseus died. And so an amazing tragic story at the end. But Circe is a goddess. Now she's a goddess because she is the daughter of Helios. Helios is the godson, the chariot that goes across our sky. And so the Greeks had a name for that. This was Helios. And then we have another one, Calypso. Calypso lives on an island, maybe the one called Malta today. So Calypso, again, a goddess, she is the daughter of Atlas, so very powerful. She kept him for 7 years in total, 7 years on the island. Ultimately, he was released by the gods and allowed to return home to Penelope and finish the story. So both of these extremely powerful. I'm quite concerned about this. Now, we do have some of the other characters. The main character, in this case, Penelope, a recent translation by Emily Wilson. From Penelope's perspective, I would suggest, is actually a beautiful translation and worth a read if you get a chance. But Penelope was extremely concerned, not so powerful. She's a mortal. She's well connected, but she's not so powerful. Now, unfortunately, her son Telemachus, a lot of the story is about this boy to man, this kind of boy to man becoming something, waiting for his father to come home, saying, "Where's my father?" Going to meet some other people, having these suitors in his house and not being able to do anything about it. So I think every day we saw that he was not so powerful, but extremely concerned. Also in this area, we have the suitors. Now the suitors, as you may know, there was 108 of them. They were taking the wine and the food and all the trappings of this nice house. And Penelope was patient with them and diligent with them, but ultimately she was conniving and cunning and able to deceive them. They were very concerned about when Odysseus was coming home and what was going to happen, and ultimately for good cause, because he killed them all in the end. A beautiful story there. Now, over here we have some other characters that we want you to think about. Terentius. Terentius, the gatekeeper to hell. In this case, Circe said he would have to go there. Odysseus went there to hell and back. And then he had to go between the devil and the great blue sea, between a rock and a hard place, or between Scylla, and Charybdis, Scylla, the six-headed monster, and Charybdis, the whirlpool that was going to cause potential damage to the whole expedition. He had to navigate this. So Terentius is over here, perhaps not that powerful, not that concerned, but definitely a character in this. Now, the Phaeacians, the goody people, the human resource, I like to think of them, they're the ones who wrapped him up and sent him on to Ithaca at the end after he had been with Calypso. And so they were very patient with him, listened to his stories, very nice people, and quite concerned about his stories and was he okay, but ultimately not that powerful, not that concerned about it. They had many things to go. Unfortunately, at the end for them, Poseidon takes revenge on them and turns their harbor into stone. Not very nice people. The Sirens, as you know, probably the most famous, where Odysseus has to navigate past the Sirens. He famously comes up with this idea to tell his men to put beeswax in their ear and to tie him to the mast of the ship so that he could hear the sirens, which he does. And he's screaming and he's panicking and he can't get to them. But the men cleverly, of course, can't hear him, so therefore they continue past it and are not harmed. The sirens live by the death of the people who come that they attract. And for many people, the sirens today, the sirens are these things calling us away from our food, from our loved ones, from our work. In our world, that would be our mobile phones, perhaps, the sirens calling us to our death. And so the sirens would be over here, perhaps, again, powerful but not so concerned, but something we need to monitor and keep an eye on. So this is called a stakeholder analysis. We hope you enjoy using the case study to illustrate this. I will continue using this case study with the requirements, the work, the risks, and the schedule, so you can see how these play out using perhaps the Odyssey as a case study. Now we would ask you to think about a project in your environment that has stakeholders perhaps that are powerful but not so concerned. The FDA, the SEC, some regulatory body out here, perhaps outside of your organization. Perhaps there are others here who are powerful and concerned, the ones who are funding this, the ones whose neck is on the line for this project. Maybe this is a finance project or a human resource project or an IT project or sales project, or you get the idea. But one of the functions will own this and become much more concerned along with their power. And then, of course, you have people down here who may be out of a job, who may be moving to a different office, who may be working in a different environment, who may be working with different people, and they're very concerned and perhaps even resistant, but not able to do anything about it. And then, of course, we have these stakeholders here that we monitor. So we look forward to seeing you again on the pod. We look forward to showing you more of these exercises. Please remember, they all come together. They all work interwovenly, seamlessly at the same time. Even though we do them in sequence, you can quickly move over to the craft area or quickly move over to the art area if conflict or emotions become too great. So again, I'm Frank Ryle. Thank you for looking at the videos, and we look forward to seeing you again.